We are just 6 days into an incredible voyage.
All away! All away! 2-6, 2-6,
A 21st century crew sailing an exact replica of the Endeavour, the ship made famous by Captain James Cook when, in 1770, he and his men became the first Europeans to discover the east coast of Australia.
Land ho!
We are in the wake of Captain Cook, following his exact route up the east coast of Australia. We have on board 15 professional crew and 41 volunteers, including Royal Navy sailors, medics, scientists, and professors of history. We're not trying to be 18th century sailors, but we are striving for a sense of what it must have been like for Cook and his men as they sailed into the unknown, as well as for the people they confronted. I'm here to take part in the adventure, but also to watch what happens. And so far what I'm seeing is that the harshness of life on an 18th century sailing ship has meant that after barely a week, nerves and bodies are fraying.
We've already got a list of about 15 people who want to come and see me. I've got bits knocked off everywhere. We're going to have a sort of half-hour surgery sometime after breakfast, try and get through the worst of the knocked off bits.
Cheers. Shane!
Hi, darling.
Shane, one of our New Zealanders, is finding other problems with shipboard life.
Shane, I've had an awful lot of complaints about snoring this morning. Are you sleeping next to anyone that snores?
Yes, I am.
Are you?
Well, I could be
What's
another
it
world.
like?
I could be another world away
Really?
from Mickey and still hear him. He's a bloody nightmare.
And this is Mickey, a radar operator from the Royal Navy.
Hello. I was having a little snooze.
Watch! Stand by! Forward course forward! Keep going on your course! 2-6! 2-6! 2-6! 2-6! 2-6!
As we follow Cook up this coastline, which he explored and charted for months, we are, like him, having to weave our way through the treacherous Great Barrier Reef. Its sharp coral teeth sometimes just inches below the surface.
Hold there. Way too early on the braces, guys.
This morning, we are approaching Endeavour Reef, a huge bank of coral 3 miles offshore. This was the very reef that nearly did for Cook and his entire ship's company on the night of June the 11th, 1770. Just what happened that night was recorded in various ship's journals. Cook's account was characteristically to the point.
The ship struck, and struck fast. This was an alarming and, I may say, terrible circumstance, and threatened immediate destruction to us.
Joseph Banks, a very influential botanist on the voyage, feared the worst.
I entirely gave up the ship, packing up what I thought I might save. Probably the most of us must be drowned. A better fate may be than those of us who should get ashore without arms to defend themselves from the Indians, the most uncivilized savages, perhaps in the world.
You men up the front at the bow. And we still need more men on this pump.
All hands on deck!
Harder, men.
These people did feel they were in mortal peril. I mean, they're absolutely on the other side of the world. They've hit a reef out in the middle of nowhere, as you can see. I mean, there's this huge horizon all around us of sea. and they're going to go down, but there's no talk of praying, there's no talk of sensibility, there's no talk of the loved ones back home. It's just a professional response. This is a crisis. Sailors behave in this kind of professional way.
I resolved to risk all and heave her off the reef, and accordingly turned as many hands to the capstan and the windlass as could be spared from the pumps. By this time we'd thrown overboard 40 or 50-ton weight.
Grab the barrel and over the side.
Our guns, iron and stone ballast casks, oil jars, decayed stores, etc. As this was not found sufficient, we continued to lighten her by every method we could think of.
Cook was really shocked to find that the tide didn't lift the boat enough to get off. He talked to the sailors, and some of the sailors said to him, well, the tide will be higher at midnight. And he said this is where he got his advice from his own people, and so he tried to get off at night, and sure enough, the tide was higher. So this man had a very good relationship with his men, and obviously trusted their judgments.
Eventually the ship floated, but still the leak was increasing upon the pumps. One of my midshipmen then proposed that we fother the ship. This he had witnessed in a merchant ship which sprung a leak coming home from Virginia to London. The manner this is done is thus. We mix rope, tar and wool together with sheep's dung and other filth and stick it loosely by handfuls all over a sail. The sail, thus prepared, is hauled and tightened under the ship's bottom to stop up the hole. I must say that no men ever behaved better than they have done on this occasion. Every man seemed to have a just sense of the danger we were in and exerted himself to the very utmost.
Before leaving Endeavour Reef, we salute Cook and his men. And now we're heading 30 miles north towards Cooktown, the natural harbour to which James Cook gently coaxed his damaged ship for repair, sailing through these treacherous waters without the aid of any charts whatsoever.
What have you found this morning?
Together with astronomer Charles Green, Cook calculated his latitude, longitude and time of day by reference to the sun, the moon and the planets, as well as complex almanacs. We, on the other hand, do have charts, and need them, until our navigators are practiced enough in the lost art of 18th century navigation.
We are trying to plot the position of the ship and be reasonably accurate about that, using dead reckoning, using anything we can get, the time checks, the solar observations, the lunar distance measurements at night of Mars and things of that sort. And it's a challenge. It's a major challenge. There are three of us. There's the young astronomer, David, and there's John Jeffrey, who's amazingly experienced and very professional, and there's me. And the three of us together are just about sort of starting to cope with it after a week. But it'll be a struggle all the way. And you can sometimes be 50, 60 miles off using this sort of procedure. And that's, by modern standards, a huge margin of error.
4 to 4. 6 to 4.
I do admire the people who ventured forth into completely unknown oceans where they knew nothing about where anything was, without the sort of basic tools that we take for granted. Accurate time, accurate position finding equipment of one sort or another, accurate compasses for heaven's sake, experts available at most ports to help you with your diesel engine or your sails or whatever. They had to do everything themselves.
And one of the things they had to do for themselves was milk the goat. brought all the way from England to provide milk for the gentleman's tea. We also have a goat, Wilhelmina, and she's sick.
Unfortunately, as we were cleaning up the breakfast stuff, I noticed that the goat, her front elbows look really sore. They normally just have a little bald patch on the front, but this one, her elbows are really swollen and she's got like all red on them. So I'm going to squirt her with some iodine in a moment, which she's going to love licking off. Squirt first, it's going to be cold. Okay, that's good. Never work with children or animals. Wilhelmina, come on.
Cooktown, and our first run ashore for a week. Those on watch have to stay on board, as well as those with injuries, like our Kiwi, Shane. He's had a mysterious spreading pain for a while now, though he's putting on a brave face.
What injury are you carrying, Shane?
I've got a pinched nerve in my neck, but it's gone all the way to my shoulder and my rib cage.
It's an old masturbatory injury.
Nightmare.
It's a pinch something, but it's not a nerve in his neck.
Apparently it's good for your eyesight, but not so good for your ribs. So I had an absolute nightmare in the cot last night and some drugs from here this morning, which seems to be doing the trick. Yeah, but sore though. A bit fragile. So everyone's been really nice to me. And I'm not allowed to go aloft, which is probably not such a bad thing.
It's good for the rig. Cooktown's an important site for historians, as for botanists, because this is the place where Cook spent 7 weeks and where he really engaged with the landscape and the people. He landed absolutely where he had to, and it was the boat severely holed with a chunk out of it the size of a man's fist.
And letting in a lot of water.
Letting in a lot of water, although they'd fathered and they'd managed a remarkable job. But he found this spot, beached the boat, leaning it over, and then they worked to fix it.
And to do that, they had to take down the topmasts and all the running rigging and the yards to lighten the top of the ship. And just imagine the work of putting those back up and re-rigging the running rigging.
Is there a track up there I can see?
There's a walk up Mount Cook, and it probably goes up there. That's one of the northernmost tips of the wet tropics area. There's a rare pandanus up there currently. But yeah, you can really see.
For the botanists, Tom and Lucy, this is their first real opportunity to collect plants in the very same area that Joseph Banks explored back in 1770.
There's what Bob calls a nanai, which is a deplantia, which is a really beautiful tree. It was one of the plants that Banks found when he arrived here and collected, so it'd be really great to get some. You sure we can't stay here for a few days?
Exactly. Can we?
I can see we're going to run out of time.
If Tom and Lucy have limited time for exploration, Joseph Banks had an excess of it. At first so terrified at the prospect of being shipwrecked, he was now in his element. Young, ambitious and immensely wealthy, he had put up £10,000 of his own money to help finance the voyage in order to discover new plant species. The need to repair the ship's hull, which ended up taking nearly 2 months to achieve, proved a blessing in disguise for Joseph Banks. During this time, he was able to explore the forests all day, together with Sidney Parkinson, a brilliant botanical artist, as well as Daniel Carl Solander, the eminent Swedish botanist.
Dr. Solander and myself went into the woods again and continued to gather and dry plants, of which we have hopes of as many as we can muster during our stay.
Banks was to collect in excess of 3,000 plant specimens from this voyage, a vast collection which would make him the most famous botanist of his day and ultimately master of the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew. But when he wasn't collecting plants, he loved to hunt.
A strange animal has been glimpsed and much talked about by those hunting. In gathering plants today, I myself had the good fortune to see the beast. To compare it to a European animal would be impossible, as it has not the least resemblance of anyone that I have ever seen. Its forelegs are extremely short and of no use to it in walking. Its hind legs, again, are disproportionately long. With these, it hops, 7 or 8 feet in each hop.
Back in the 21st century, our run ashore to Cooktown also brings us face to face with local delicacies. After a week of salted meat, porridge and chips biscuits, this for some is just too irresistible.
It's simply scavenging food from the indigenous people, which is exactly what Cook did. We arrived here, and the indigenous civilization happens to be one of the best fish and chip shops in all of Australia, and so we simply wouldn't want to offend the natives by not taking what they have to offer.
I can't believe all these people are so weak-willed. Look at all of them. You don't see me with a Coke, do you, Chris?
Did you get it all down before the cameras got up here, Cole?
Exactly.
Prove it.
Yeah, and I dream of this on the Endeavour.
Sack me, send me home, don't care. I've got an ice cream.
I'm so hungry.
Lovely, jubbly, but
I'm tempted to have one.
It says on the front, the great taste of Australia. That's what Cook was trying to achieve. I'm just doing it my own and unique way. I can't resist a pie, come on.
Land animals are scarce in these parts, but the sort that is in the greatest plenty is the kangaroo, so called by the natives. This day a small one was shot, 28 pounds clear of entrails. We dined on the animal and thought it excellent food.
It's actually I'm very sure it will be a different species.
Go.
One of those towels, you can't get it dry.
Yeah.
You can't go past the fact that this man was a brilliant sailor. We've discovered a kind of new respect for him, I think, as a sailor. That's one thing we've learnt from the boat. But Cook is, well, at one level, just another sailor, if not an exceptional one. But he's come to stand for a hell of a lot more than that. He's come to stand for the heroic imperial enterprise, for the foundation of European Australia. And I think he's come to stand for some indigenous people, for the imperialistic imposition, really, of European ways on this country. He's a hero for the British. I think they needed a hero at that time. Significantly, if we look at the date when this statue was put up, it's a bicentennial affair. It's Australia, making its national heroes, and he's been cast as a national hero. I think when we talk to some of the other people around here, you'll have a very different take on him.
Captain Cook isn't our hero. He done the wrong thing. He definitely done the wrong thing. We all had our laws, our customs, our traditions. Our society was running fine before Captain Cook and Australia was colonised. he's no hero to us. But even though, like, you can't change history, if he didn't come, someone else probably would have come, the French, the Dutch, or some other nation. And around that time, they was all the same. They treated black races as, you know, some lower than them.
You still get this cook that, around Cooktown. But you get some of my people in there who sort of feel, why did he come here, you know? Went up to Grassy Hill. That's where my people seen the ship come and go. Just sitting there thinking, how would they have felt seeing it? I don't know, it's just going back and thinking how my people felt at that time.
These natives live in a tranquility which is not disturbed by the inequality of condition. They seem to set no value upon anything we gave them. This, in my opinion, argues that they think themselves provided with all the necessaries of life and that they have no superfluities. The earth and sea furnishes them with all things necessary for life.
If you're an asthmatic or start getting flu or anything, it's a medicine that you crush the leaves and then just eat the ants.
I've eaten a whole bunch of them.
Can I eat one?
Just pick them up, stick them in your mouth. They don't bite.
The whole ant, or do you pull the
whole thing?
No, the whole ant.
Go ahead and tail them first.
It's lemony, isn't it?
Bit chew them though.
Oh.
Do you want to?
That's actually quite refreshing.
They don't bite.
They don't bite.
Come on, pal.
And you just pick up the whole ant.
Just stick him on.
He's
on
a
the
little
tip of your
ornery. I'm not sure I can. He seems like he's biting.
No, they don't bite.
You just
Put
take
him
the
on
whole
tip of
thing.
your tongue and crush it.
Oh, he's crawling around.
Oh, just smack him.
Squeeze it before you eat it.
It's like
Tasty.
lemon.
Yeah, I'll have a go. Pair of them. Yeah, like lemony, citrusy.
Right on the tip of
They're
your
like Tic Tacs, but with legs. Imagine taking a bag of them to the cinema.
Hey, look at this, 6 days on the Endeavour.
If you get like 3 or 4 of them, they're like really flavorful.
Hard.
Yeah, they are. It's like
Very tart.
I think I have a leg stuck in my tooth.
What are you after, Tom?
The Barringtonia racemosa, this is the one plant that really is special to me. It's the very first tropical plant I ever learnt when I arrived at Kew. And it always kind of fascinated me because of its use for fish poison. And here it is flowering, the remains of an old flower. It's always the one you just can't quite reach. This is the first tropical plant I ever learnt at Kew, Lucy.
Wow, that's special.
Yeah.
Now
If I can
here
just
you are.
take one more step out here.
If being the operative word. Do you want a big stick again?
We want to know if we can eat this mushroom.
Probably not. It looks dead, actually.
Mickey, will you come taste this mushroom for us?
I'm toppers of, I'm full of, absolutely toppers of ants. Another termite. You eat, go on, you eat it. I ain't got much room for a mushroom.
You might think the Endeavour is the love boat after having one of these.
It'd have to be pretty strong hallucinogenic for that.
I don't think you want Mickey thinking the Endeavour's the love boat.
We'll be abandoning ship.
Because after all, I'm the best shag I know.
I'm God. Tom, be careful.
These botanists are wetting themselves with excitement, aren't they? You climb over that river, there's things in there, crocodile eat you. He's over the river, getting the flower.
Look at that, no, look at that spike there.
Not on that spike.
Oh, I have to have that, I'm sorry. I'd rather do this and climb up the rigging. You wouldn't have caught Banks up here. Absolutely no way.
He didn't do his own climbing?
No, I think he would have sent one of his servants up, or unfortunately in those days they used to just cut down the tree if they could.
That's true.
If they couldn't get at it. But nowadays we don't do that.
Where's that going to fall?
Botanizing today, but the mosquito, whose peaceful dominions it seems we had invaded, spared no pains to molest us, as much as was in their power, with their intolerable stings.
Little bastards. Must have beaten 80 now.
Oh, there's an alligator crocodile.
He's just going to itch for Britain. I'm so pleased I'm not sleeping near him.
So I'll keep you all awake.
Yeah, right. Tom, that was just magnificent.
That was good.
Your prize, sir?
Thank you.
Look, show us, Tom, what you've got.
Barringtonia racemosa. They flower, what's it called? Is it hapaxanthic when they flower from here going out to the...
No, hapaxanthics, they die.
Oh, that's the other way. If we don't get anything else, that's good enough for me.
Our Aboriginal guides recognised the plant at once.
Well, that's what we've got down at the Daintree. Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
They just crush the flowers and just throw them out. And it's used as a, it stuns the fish.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can just walk in and pull them out.
Yep.
But over 200 years from Banks and Solander, there are still things to discover in these forests.
Definitely, absolutely, without doubt. There's still, I mean, I couldn't put a number on it, but there's still a large proportion of stuff still undiscovered by the Western world. As we all know, these forests are being destroyed, and these plants and their chemical properties, which could be beneficial to man, could be lost forever, whereas the Aborigines, they use them and they know them all.
Could we but understand the natives, or make them by any means our friends, we might perchance learn the properties of some of these plants, which might be useful for physical or economical purposes. For though their manner of life is but 1 degree removed from brutes, yet these Indians have a knowledge of plants.
Ah, there she is. Yeah. Looks so innocuous from here.
What's the vehicle about torment?
Those masts look only that high.
I know.
That looks an awfully long way out.
Back in 1770, the Endeavour was mended as well as she could be after 7 weeks, and Cook planned his departure. He knew the ship was still weakened and needed proper repairs, but the nearest shipyard was over 3,000 miles away on the island of Java in today's Indonesia. Before sailing, and fearing the danger of the reefs, Cook went and climbed the highest hill he could find.
From this point, I had an extensive view of the seacoast. This afforded a melancholy prospect of the difficulties we are to encounter, for in whatever direction I turned my eyes, shoals innumerable were to be seen.
Cook decided he had to break out of the Great Barrier Reef into the open sea, or else risk losing his ship for good. But was there a way out? Cook was fortunate in the design of the Endeavour, a converted coal ship with a draft of only 11 feet. With her, he would try and skim over the sharp coral reefs.
One more, let's go. 2, 6.
We are going to attempt to follow the exact course he took on his bid to escape the reef.
Right, belay port side braces, firm up and belay starboard. Take your lines down to one turn.
Let's keep going on the course. All the way around, keep hauling away.
Cook is desperately searching for a way out of the Grand Reef, as he calls it. And he sees himself hedged in by a trap. It's like he sees these teeth, great teeth under the water, ready to tear the bowels out of his boat.
All away. 2-6.
Heave!
2-6.
Heave!
2-6.
Heave!
I'll keep the top turn up.
2, 6. 2, 6.
Course 145, Captain. Steady on 145.
That's it. What's the depth of the lead? Depth of the lead!
Cook proceeded very nervously, constantly swinging the lead. That's hurling a lead weight on the end of a calibrated rope to measure depth.
By the mark, 7. By the mark, 7.
Having been entangled in these shoals, we've sailed 360 leagues without ever having a man out of the chains heaving the lead. A circumstance, I dare say, never happened to any ship before, and yet here it was absolutely necessary.
After a week of painstaking navigation, Cook, still trapped within the reef, came across a deserted tropical island.
We're just coming up to Lizard Island, and this is kind of an irony because Lizard Island is viewed as one of the great playgrounds for the rich in Australia. It's said to be the second most expensive island resort, and it's sold as the great paradise island.
When Cook came across this beautiful tropical isle, he was consumed with anxiety. All he wanted to do really was to get ashore and get up another hill and have another look at the reefs beyond to see if he could possibly find a channel through.
To my mortification, I discovered a reef of rocks extending in a line northwest and southeast, farther than I could see, on which the sea broke very high. This, however, gave me great hopes that they were the outermost shoals, for there appeared to be several breaks or partitions in the reef with deep water. After my return, I instructed the master to take the longboat to look for a channel clear of the shoals.
By the deep, 4.
After a time, the master made the signal for the ship to proceed.
We are about to break out of the reef on exactly the same course as Captain Cook.
We are going through a very narrow gap, so there's no room for cutting corners.
John here is actually taking a back bearing on the peak on Lizard Island, and the captain needs that to be 215 degrees, and John is reporting to him on what's going on. I'm just here watching with some trepidation the line of breakers up there, which you can see, where you can't, with the naked eye, if you don't know that there's a break there, you can't see one.
Steady, 216, true!
It's exciting. It's exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing that ocean surge come through the narrow gap. And for us to shoot it and then burst into the Pacific Ocean with its well-grown seas. I think it's going to be a lot of roll and pitch and a bit more seasickness, perhaps.
According to the vet that I spoke to, though, they can't be sick. Something to do with the way their stomachs work.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shane.
It feels worse than it did this morning, in fairness.
Well, I could give you more drugs after tea.
Yeah. So see you after tea.
What's up, mate? What is it?
Hey?
What you got?
I've got a trapped nerve in my neck. It's gone through the shoulder and down to my ribs as well. It's hard to breathe. It hurts to lie down. Just bloody painful, to be honest. This rolling sea doesn't help.
Get used to it.
On Cook's ship, Dr. Monkhouse looked after the sick. So far on the trip, he had lost just 8 men to drowning, drink, hypothermia and epilepsy. Quite a low tally in those days. He had medical instruments, but no anaesthetic or painkillers, save liberal quantities of rum, wine and beer.
Really? You sit there. Good girl.
Look just there on the horizon, this great strip of surf breaking there. Cook called it a dreadful surf, and that's exactly what it looks like. And there's no sign of a break.
A reef such as this is scarcely known in Europe. A wall of coral rock rising from the unfathomable ocean, making a most terrible surf.
Ah! Okay, Sean. And it's actually hurting you when you take a breath, is it? Just going to feel for your windpipe now. How's your leg feeling now? Is that better?
Yeah, it's fine, yeah.
No tenderness in that calf anymore, that's all settled itself down.
I hope so. I've never felt anything like this before, it's awful.
No, we'll get you comfortable as soon as we can, all right?
It's worked for about half an hour ago.
Does it hurt when you actually move yourself around?
Yeah.
That's catching.
Yep.
And it hurts when you take a deep breath.
It hurts when I take a little breath.
Okay.
Ah!
Okay, Shane. Listen, one of the things I'd like to do is I'd like to put a drip in so we can give you painkillers down the drip. Okay?
Shit.
You all right? You keep running around me? You all right? Let yourself go loose. Let yourself go loose. Let us take the weight. All right?
All alive!
As Shane is taken down below, the rest of us prepare to take the ship out of the Great Barrier Reef and into the Pacific, through what is now called Cook's Passage.
Cook had one chance to make it through, in effect the teeth of this monster as he was seeing it at that stage. And I'm finding it really exciting. I feel as though we're going through exactly the same circumstances that he did.
Just got to mention my diary, shipmate.
Eh?
Just got to mention my diary.
What did it say?
It says you're whinging like a woman because you've got a bad neck.
Don't make him laugh, I think it hurts. Sam,
Sam, you're a big, strong lad. Can you do me a big favour?
Yep.
Can you grab hold of his forearm and squeeze like bloody hell for me? Like it's going out of fashion.
Round about there?
Somewhere around there, she's just lovely. Watch
that
yourself,
blood
because I'm
pumping.
going to be using a sharp. Just turn his
It's all
wrist
part
over a
of the
little
same.
bit for me.
Starts from the neck to the
That's
rib.
good. All right, Shane, you're going to hate me for this in just one tick, but it's only going to be a short, sharp
Look,
scratch.
look at Mickey's belly, mate.
Sharp scratch now. Don't make him laugh again, it'll hurt.
Well, I'm not dying. I know you're not dying, but... if you are, can I have your shoes?
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Oh! Fuck you.
Anyone feeling a good first aid moment? Would you like to try taking this thing in properly for me whilst I go in here?
And it's so beautiful and yet so terrible.
I know you're being prodded and poked up from all angles, but just look straight ahead. So get a little bit of oxygen. Gonna start inspiring for the time. Alright, you ready? Okay.
Oh, yeah, good.
Coming down to 215, true.
Thank you. It's even more ferocious there. Just there. It's really gnashing its teeth.
I need to talk to somebody. I'm going to go up to the nav room, that end, see if I can get on the phone. Come and grab me if anything changes at all.
Claire is going to try and contact her base hospital back in Nottingham in England. She now suspects Shane's condition could be extremely serious. She needs advice.
Hello, can I ask you to bleep the medical registrar for me, please? Yes, please. Yeah, it's a satellite phone from Australia. Can you bleep the medical registrar, please? 6 o'clock in the morning is not the time to get hold of a UK doctor. Hi, I wonder if you can help me. There's going to be quite a long time delay in this conversation. I'm calling you from a satellite phone off the Barrier Reef. I need your advice. Can you help me out? Can you help me? Hello, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, my name's Claire Edwards. I'm calling you from a ship off the Great Barrier Reef. I need some medical advice. Can you help me? Hello? Hello? Hello, can you hear me now?
Someone's sailing into a maelstrom.
We're heading straight for it.
Yeah, into the abyss.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Racing station!
Hello?
Stand by the warship!
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, I wonder if you can help me. I need some medical advice. I've got a 32-year-old male, complained of right pleuritic chest pain. Examining his chest, he's got decreased air entry on the right-hand side. His trachea is mildly deviated towards the right. And he has reduced expansion on the right. Did you you hear that information?
On the boarding, brace the out, starboard, port tack, come on!
Hello? Oh, I've lost him. Damn!
The passage, or channel, before us lies 3 leagues northeast from Lizard Island. The high-rolling sea increased the leaks in the ship considerably, but as soon as we were outside the reef, this was looked upon as trifling to the danger we had made our escape from.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Racing stations! Thank you!
Next week, as Shane's condition deteriorates, Claire desperately tries to re-establish contact with the 21st century. Meanwhile, in the 18th century, now safely outside the Great Barrier Reef, Captain Cook makes an extraordinary decision.